DaVo here from the Axiom Body Piercing Studio, located inside Lovely Skin Kitchen in Des Moines, Iowa. And coming up next, how to heal a lip piercing. First off, I always like to kind of give a disclaimer before we get into this too far. I'm recording this in October of 2018. If you're seeing this video after that, and you've gotten conflicting ideas or conflicting information on how to heal this particular piercing, lip piercings, then I suggest you discuss it with your piercer or with myself before you continue to follow these instructions. So lip piercings are kind of a complicated piercing to heal out. Not really difficult, just kind of complicated. What we're doing is we're healing two types of tissue. In your mouth, it's going to heal a lot faster than it is on the outside. So when we talk about it, we kind of have to treat it like two different piercings. So here's what you're going to need to heal it out. Biotine Antiseptic Mouthwash. You can find it at Walgreens, Walmart, Target. Any grocery store or department store will probably handle it if they handle a lot of oral care products. Also, sea salt, which you can find in the baked goods aisle of any good grocery store. It's also really good on French fries. It's supposed to be healthier for you. So use it in cooking. Distilled water. You can find that in the beverage aisle of most large grocery stores. If you can't find it there, check next to the infant care section. Sometimes they'll hide it over there. If you're in a department store, it might be next to the appliances and so forth. Mild antimicrobiotic soap or antibacterial soap. Probably the most common or easy to find is Dial Gold. However, if you want something completely natural, it was just grapefruit seed oil based antibacterial liquid soap. If you want to go to the pharmacy level, which is always best, and what I generally suggest is satin or Proven if you can find it. It's also a good idea to have plenty of clean paper towels on hand. Now, we can't talk about an oral piercing without talking about swelling. Swelling will occur with lip piercing sometimes a couple days into the process. It's not like tongue piercings where you wake up the next morning and suddenly it's 3 times its normal size. But you do need to take precautions to reduce that amount of swelling. And that means cut down your intake of tobacco, alcohol, cannabis, hot and spicy foods, things that are extremely warm in temperature, or anything that may agitate your mouth, especially in that first roughly 3 to 5 days. Listen to your body. If it hurts to ingest something, don't ingest it. Think back to the last time you bit the side of your mouth or bit your tongue, what hurt to eat, and avoid those things. Food. It's not as intrusive as, say, a tongue piercing would be, but it's best to kind of stick with simplistic foods until you know what you can handle. Sports shakes, nutritional shakes, baby food, applesauce, yogurt. And I'll get into the main reason why I suggest yogurt a little bit later. Also, cold items are really good. Shakes, ice cream, frozen treats, smoothies, popsicles, because that cold will help reduce the swelling. The other thing you can do to reduce swelling is gently sucking on ice chips for the first 24 to 28 hours, drinking lots of cold liquids and staying hydrated, and taking ibuprofen. So let's get into how do you actually take care of it. For the first 2 weeks, you're going to want to rinse a couple times a day, both with the saltwater rinses and with the Biotine Antiseptic Mouthwash. If you watch my video on tongue piercing aftercare, it's basically the same thing. To mix up the mixture of sea salt and warm water, take, first off, a cup of warm water, put it in the microwave, heat it up about the same period of time that you would if you were warming up your coffee or cocoa. And when I say cup, I mean a measured cup, 8 ounces. Drop in 1/8 of a teaspoon to 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt, let it dissolve. It'll taste about as salty as your own tears. For the first 2 weeks, I want you to rinse roughly about 1 minute to 2 minutes, kind of rinsing and then spit, rinse, then spit, twice daily, once in the morning, once at night. Here's where the Biotine comes in effect. You want to rinse roughly 4 to 5 times a day. I suggest working into your daily routine. Meaning, rinse right after breakfast and after brushing your teeth, after lunch, after supper, after dinner. So you're doing it roughly 4 times a day. If you incorporate the saltwater with that, or the saltwater rinses, what I suggest doing is eat your breakfast, brush your teeth, because you're supposed to. It's good for you. Do the rinsing with the minute to 2 minutes with the sea salt mixture. Rinse with the biotine. Then after lunch, rinse with the biotine. After supper, rinse with the biotine. And then after, or right before you go to bed, brush your teeth, do the saltwater rinse, and then rinse with the biotine. You want to do the biotine rinses roughly about 30 seconds, which is equivalent to singing Happy Birthday or Mary Had a Little Lamb twice, or saying the Pledge of Allegiance twice. That covers the inside of the mouth. And most of those 2 things we want you to primarily do for the first 2 weeks. The outside is going to take a little bit longer to heal. Anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks is pretty common, during which you're going to do hot compresses. So save that saltwater mixture I already told you how to make. Take a clean paper towel, soak up the substance, lay it against the piercing, constantly re-submerging as it cools for roughly about 10 minutes. Soaks are always more effective. However, it's one of those locations where it may not be very comfortable to do, but if you can do it at least one of those times a day, it's going to help. It's a little bit more effective. You want to do what the compresses and soaks do is they help to draw waste and debris from the piercing, increase circulation and the flow of oxygen, which can help with healing. The salt actually contains minerals and nutrients that are helpful in your body's production of skin cells. It can help somewhat with the inflammation, and it really helps to soothe it. Piercings are notorious for going through kind of grumpy phases where they're sore and tender. And this is one of those things you can do to kind of make it feel better and get things back on track. The same thing with the rinses. They will affect it that way too. Next part, you want to, the one thing about rinsing and the one thing about doing compresses or soaks is you always want to rinse out of running water after you get done. I usually suggest cleaning it in the shower immediately after doing the compress, just to be on the safe side. However, I know sometimes scheduling doesn't work that way, so at least rinse it out of running water so we can get those salt crystals off there. Leaving the salt crystals against the piercing can actually cause issues, including the salt becoming caked onto the jewelry and onto the piercing, blocking the flow of oxygen, blocking your body's ability to discharge waste and debris that it produces, and also blocking that flow of oxygen to the piercing. So, plus, it can dehydrate the piercing a little bit too much or cause salt burns. So always rinse afterwards. Always. The other part you do in the shower. First off, take care of all those normal bathing duties first, just in case you get some hair products or something out of you. Rinsing it away right away. Spray the water, wash your hands first off. Spray the water directly under the piercing. Once you've got that discharge off there, take the soap, squirt out a pearl drop in the palm of your hand. It does not take a lot, just a little bit. Lather it up well so you're diluting it, because we don't want to put on there full strength. It's too harsh. Apply it to the piercing area, then let it stay in contact for 30 seconds, which, as I mentioned earlier, is equivalent to saying Happy Birthday twice or reciting the Pledge of Allegiance twice. Then rinse under running water. So let's kind of regroup what we're going to do here. You want to do the rinsing starting the night of the piercing, so I suggest doing it before you go to bed. The warm saltwater rinses in the rinsing with the biotine. The cleaning in the shower and the hot compresses you want to start the next morning. You want to do both of those things, the rinses twice daily for 2 weeks. The cleaning in the shower and the hot compresses or soaks, you want to do twice daily for at least the next 8 weeks, or until you stop seeing that discharge collecting and depositing on the jewelry. And the piercing has this kind of indented or ingrown look to it, where it's kind of curved inward. Seems healed, but you're not sure. Stop by. Either your piercer, stop by. If I did it, stop by the shop. Most piercers will be happy to go, hey, you did a great and fantastic job, or yeah, let's give it a couple more weeks. Cross-contamination I mentioned. Common sense stuff. Wash your hands before you handle the jewelry. Try to handle it by that ball or seamed area if it's a ring. If it's barbells, try to handle it by the ends. The only time you need to have any contact with the piercing is when you're cleaning it. Rest of the time, leave it alone. Also, keep everybody else's germy little fingers off of it. Understand that microorganisms like bacteria and other pathogens do travel on the surface of your skin, so anytime you touch the area, it's a good idea to wash your hands before you do so. Do not move the jewelry. At some point in your life, you might have been told to spin, rotate, or move jewelry, or otherwise become permanently affixed to your body. That's not going to happen. Constantly moving and rotating jewelry during the healing process increases your likelihood of infection by overhandling the jewelry and possibly draining contaminants into the piercing. It'll move naturally just thanks to good old-fashioned gravity, but anything beyond that is completely unnecessary. If you do have to adjust the jewelry for one reason or another, it's always best to do it right after you get done cleaning it in the shower, so you know it's free of discharge and anything else. And also make sure you wash your hands really carefully. If it doesn't seem like it wants to move or budge, never force the jewelry. It's not uncommon for that initial tissue to form very tight and very fragile. If you go in there and you start forcing it, you're going to break loose skin growth and you're going to prolong your healing period. But as I said before, it's best just to leave it be and don't move it all the time. Only other time you might need to handle the jewelry is if it's done with a curved barbell. Both ends of those usually do come unscrewed. They do need to be checked on a regular basis. Buying some latex gloves or some type of gloves that give you a little bit better grip, or making sure that you get all the oils off your fingers will usually give you a little better grip. But you do want to check the tightness of those on a regular basis. They can fall off on their own, and they usually land probably in the most disgusting thing in any environment you're possibly in. And you're not going to want to put them back in your mouth after that. So make sure that you do check those on a regular basis. No oral contact, teeth, mouth kissing, or sexual contact for a minimum of 8 weeks. Understand that even after this piercing heals, you are more acceptable to STDs or oral sex. So if you switch partners, practice safe sex the way you're supposed to, which means latex barrier. Keep your environment clean. Clothing, bedding, towels, anything that may come in contact with it. Avoiding it around constantly changing your pillowcase. Get an old, soft, comfortable t-shirt that's clean, of course. Put it over your pillow. Sleep on one side, sleep on the other side. Turn it inside out. Sleep on one side, sleep on the other side. That way you get about 4 days out of it. Also, because sometimes they do bleed a little bit during that first week, anywhere from 1 to 5 days, it cuts down the likelihood of staining the pillow in the pillowcase. Keep pets away from it. Do not let them sleep in the bed with you. They are just little germ magnets, and they bring everything in and spread it all over your nice, clean bedding. Do not submerge the piercing in bodies of water you can't control the quality of, which is everything but your own clean bathtub. Do not share food items or utensils with other people. Make sure that your own utensils are cleaned on a regular basis. I generally suggest starting with a fresh toothbrush just to be on the safe side. So now let's move on to jewelry. Usually piercings are done in areas where, like the mouth, where it's going to swell a little bit on the large side. So once it heals, you may want to downsize to a shorter ring or smaller ring or a shorter curved barbell. However, you do not want to take the jewelry out and replace it until it's completely healed. And even then, you only want to take it out for short periods of time and only to reinsert new jewelry. With your mouth, you generate tissue very rapidly inside your mouth. That's one of the reasons why it heals so quickly. Leaving the jewelry out for an extended period of time out of a lip piercing is going to probably result in it closing. I have had clients that have had them for years, took them out for a couple hours for a job interview or to visit grandma, and had problems getting them back in. So if you like the piercing, leave something in it. I personally never charge change jewelry, regardless of where it comes from. Most reputable piercers will not charge to change jewelry, especially if you buy the new jewelry at their studio. When it comes to jewelry, use some common sense. If it's got sharp edges, points, things dangling off of it, or it seems extremely heavy, it's probably going to be damn uncomfortable and constantly get caught and snagged on everything it comes in contact with. With lip piercings, like I've stated in the consultation, because of the angle of the piercing being somewhat like that, you do not want to put straight barbells or labret studs in those piercings. I generally suggest either sticking with a circular item, rings, curved circular barbells, seamless rings, that sort of thing. Or you can, in some cases, if the piercing is far enough out of the mouth, put in a curved barbell. with the two balls on both ends. Whenever in doubt about a piece of jewelry, you're unsure, you see something, you're like, wow, that's cool, I like that, but I'm not sure about it, contact your piercer or contact me if I've done the piercing, or even if I haven't done the piercing. I'm happy to give you advice on what I suggest as far as what's going to work or not work, regardless of where you're spending your money. If you're looking for something very specific and you're just not finding it, you might want to check out my website. I list 4 different places that I suggest buying jewelry online. The reason why I like those places, they list the manufacturer next to the jewelry, so you know where it came from, who made it, what the quality of the jewelry is, and what it's in fact actually made out of. Opposed to going to the mall, a department store, a gas station, a head shop, Etsy, eBay, Amazon, or countless other sites online where you have no idea where this jewelry is manufactured and what it's actually in fact made out of. Infections, very infrequent. Something creeps up and doesn't seem right to you. Get in contact with your piercer, or me if I did it, of course, or seek professional medical advice as soon as possible. The 2 worst things you can do if you think you have an infection: put off getting it taken care of. It's just going to get worse and be much more difficult to correct the longer you put off getting taken care of. The other thing is taking the jewelry out. A lot of people's misconception, it's screwed up, I'll take the jewelry out. Everything goes back to normal. The problem with that thinking is how your body heals infections and what happens when you take the jewelry out. Your body heals infections by pushing infected tissue and fluids out through the wounds while it replaces it with healthy tissue below. When you remove the jewelry, which is the only thing keeping those 2 holes open, the piercing holes can close and possibly trap that infected tissue and fluids deep inside the piercing, leading to a couple things possibly happening. Worst case scenario, it turns into an inward traveling infection, begins to actually spread into other tissue. If left untreated, can possibly turn septic or cause permanent tissue damage. More commonly, your body will try to isolate the infection and then slowly and very painfully pushing it to the surface. In both cases, you're going to need medical treatment, and it's probably going to involve having it lanced and drained. Because it's an oral piercing and you're going to be rinsing, I do need to talk to you about thrush. Thrush is caused by a breakdown of the natural enzymes and bacteria in your mouth, and you get an outbreak of a fungi called thrush. It'll coat your tongue with this usually cottage cheese-looking substance, kind of whitish yellowish in some cases, has a distinct odor sometimes, burning or itching sensation. Not really a life-threatening situation, but it's something that will probably require medical attention, and it's definitely not something you want to go through unless you absolutely have to. It's equivalent to having a yeast infection inside your mouth. The reason why we bring this up specifically, oral piercings, is because you're rinsing a lot more than you normally would. The reason why we don't want you to rinse more than 4 to 5 times a day is to cut down the likelihood of thrush. Also, you should avoid rinsing or healing a piercing, an oral piercing, during a period of time that you're on any type of antibiotic. If you do get sick during the healing period, during that first 2 weeks when you're rinsing, talk to your physician about other alternatives other than antibiotics and mention the word thrush, and he'll probably understand why you're concerned and how much you're rinsing. The other hint is to eat 4 to 5 cartons of yogurt a day. Acidophilus, which is a probiotic, can help keep things in balance during that period. Now, normal reactions to this piercing. Now, it's not uncommon to see some of the signs of infection like discomfort, discolorization, heat, tenderness of touch, inflammation, off and on for that first anywhere from 1 to 2 days all the way up to a couple of weeks. It's also not uncommon to see a tad bit of bleeding anywhere from 1 to 5 days. Most people don't even notice the bleeding. It usually just kind of collects around the piercing holes. With oral piercings, it's not uncommon to see a white ring of tissue form on the inside of the mouth. That's scar tissue. It's opaque usually or a little whitish. That's completely normal. The other thing that kind of freaks people out is to see this kind of nasty looking yellowish stringy stuff, kind of looks like snot, hanging off the inside. What that is lymph discharge. Just like that stuff that's going to harden and collect on the inside, on the outside, on the inside of your mouth, your body also uses it to get rid of debris, dead skin cells, and all that fun stuff, and byproducts of the production of your skin cells. It means it's doing its work, and this is the waste that is produced from it. In your mouth, it can't harden. It forms in these long strings because it's warm and moist in there. Leave them be. The next time you rinse, it will fall off. That pretty much covers the main parts of it. I will put a link in the description on more information, like my lip piercings and labret piercings beaten to death block, also to my aftercare instructions online. If you enjoyed this, please give us a like. If you'd like to see more of these, including, we do all kinds of stuff on here. I post these on a regular basis, and I plan on going through all of the piercings eventually. Also, we will post a weekly update of what's going on here at the Axiom in the Skin Kitchen, and including the tattoos of the week from Wesley and Jack. New thing we have coming up is a new series that we're going to be putting out every other Sunday called Q&A in the Kitchen. We pick a topic and the three of us sit down and discuss that topic at length. Kind of an insider's view into some of the common questions we get asked. Kind of in depth, kind of fun, kind of entertaining. So other than that, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you for your piercing needs in the future.